It's the 16th of December 2011 and this is episode 204 of 65 Bits, Tech65's bi-weekly tech news podcast. I'm Daniel and your 6.5 minutes of tech news starts now. Facebook Timeline is now available worldwide. That's right, another major Facebook update has come upon us. With this update, your profile page has now become a timeline showing all of your Facebook activity in a timeline from now back until the day you started using Facebook. If you think about it, this makes the usage of Facebook a lot clearer with little overlapping of use cases. To look at what's going on with your friends, visit the homepage newsfeed. To find out more about a specific person, visit their timeline. You now have no reason to visit a profile other than to learn more about that person and their history. In fact, I can't seem to find the walls feature where I can write on other people's pages anymore on the new timeline layout. If you're worried about what people can see on your timeline though, don't worry, Facebook isn't making the change immediate. You're given 7 days to review your contents and history and to remove or hide information and embarrassing photos you don't want your friends to see before your timeline is published. Still upset about the new Facebook change? Well, in other Facebook news, Facebook has introduced a new counseling chat service to reduce suicide. With this new feature, if you notice a Facebook friend with a suicidal thought, you can now report it to Facebook by clicking a link next to the comment. Facebook will then send an email to the person who posted a suicidal comment, encouraging them to call a hotline or click on a link to begin a confidential Facebook chat with a crisis counselor. I wonder if Facebook introduced a new suicidal report feature now in anticipation of the response to the new timeline? Remember kids, there's nothing serious enough to warrant the need to take your own life. Especially not another major Facebook change. Perhaps this next piece of news will cheer you up. Sony Ericsson and Box are now providing 50GB of free online storage for all Xperia users with Box for Android. In case you don't know what Box is, Box.com is an online service that provides cloud storage just like Dropbox and iCloud. If you're a Sony Ericsson Xperia owner, all you need to do is download the free Box app from the Android marketplace, log in once and you get 50GB for life. This year-long promotion runs from today until the end of 2012, and it looks like a response from Sony Ericsson to compete with Apple's iCloud and Box.com's move to compete with Dropbox. Regardless, hooray for free stuff! Speaking of free stuff, Google just introduced YouTube for Schools. Nope, this isn't Google's attempt to teach kids the evolution of dance, but rather YouTube for Schools is a network setting that schools administrators can turn on to grant access only to the educational content from YouTube EDU so that teachers can actually let students use YouTube in class. Teachers will be able to choose from the hundreds of thousands of videos on YouTube EDU created by more than 600 partners. There are also over 300 playlists broken out by subjects such as math, science, social studies, and English language arts, as well as by grade level. Sorry kids, you're not going to be finding Tech65 videos on YouTube EDU. If you manage a school, you can check out www.youtube.com/schools. In other news, Microsoft releases a whole bunch of apps on the Apple iOS App Store, including a game. The apps include Microsoft Office OneNote for the iPad, Microsoft Lync, that's spelled L-Y-N-C, for you to connect to your Office's Microsoft Communicator services, the Xbox Live app to connect to and manage your Xbox Live account, and a Halo Waypoint app to assist you in your Halo game. The most surprising one though is Connectimals. Unlike the rest of the apps which are companion apps for existing Microsoft services, Connectimals is a standalone game. These apps and games are available on Windows Phone 7 already, but it's nice to see Microsoft port them at the same time to iOS and Android as well. Sure, you could say that this is Microsoft admitting that Windows Phone 7 isn't popular enough for them to even use it themselves, but looking at the way some of these apps are designed, you'll realize that this is actually Microsoft's attempt to let iOS and Android users have a taste of the Windows Phone 7 experience, which I think is a very smart strategy. Speaking of iOS, Apple just brought the iTunes Store to Brazil and other Latin American countries, including Venezuela, Colombia, and Peru. The new stores will be launched with over 20 million songs from both Brazilian and international artists, along with more than 1,000 films for rent or purchase. Why am I mentioning this story? Because if Brazil and Venezuela can have their own iTunes Store, may I know why on earth is Singapore not getting an iTunes Store yet? And now for some local news. Singapore is going to develop a hybrid hard disk drive for mobile devices through a partnership between Singapore's Data Storage Institute, otherwise known as DSI, and hard disk drive components maker Seiko Instruments. This new disk drive is a 2.5-inch, 5mm thin hybrid hard disk drive that is expected to enhance the next generation of media tablets and mobile computing devices. To be honest, this sounds like a technology that's 3 steps forward, 5 steps back. That's because hard disks are called hard disks because the round disks inside them with tiny arms that move and write data onto the disks. No matter how reliable this new technology is, putting moving parts in a device that I carry in my pocket and toss around sounds like a really silly thing to do. That's why there are no smartphones or media tablets with disk drive today, and solid disk drives are used. Maybe I'm missing something, so if you know why this new venture isn't silly, please explain it to me. I really want to know. Alright, that's it for this episode of 65 Bits. If you have any questions or comments, please comment on this blog post or send an email at 65bits@tech65.org. You can always find us on your usual social networks like Facebook and Twitter as well. Otherwise, visit us at tech65.org. This was your 6.5 minutes of tech news with me, Daniel, and we'll see you next time.